Story 1. The clown was just one of the many attractions at the annual carnival that came to the small town of Somerville every summer. But this year, something was different. Something sinister lurked beneath the clown's painted smile. The townspeople began to whisper amongst themselves about strange happenings, disappearances, and unexplained deaths. But no one suspected the clown, who was always there, grinning at children and making balloon animals. One night, a group of teenagers stumbled upon a hidden room beneath the carnival. There, they found a shocking discovery: a collection of bodies, all missing their hearts. The teenagers were horrified, but as they turned to leave, they heard a faint giggling sound coming from the darkness. Suddenly, the clown emerged from the shadows, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. He towered over the teens, his face twisted into a demonic sneer. They tried to run, but the clown was too fast, too powerful. One by one, he caught them, ripping out their hearts with his razor-sharp teeth. But there was one survivor. A girl named Bev, who managed to escape the clown's clutches. She ran back to town, warning everyone of the monster lurking beneath the carnival. The townspeople organized a search party, determined to put an end to the clown's reign of terror. They combed through the carnival grounds, searching for any sign of the killer clown. And then, they found him. But what they saw left them frozen in terror. The clown was dead, his body lying in a pool of blood. And lying next to him was a small, innocent-looking boy, his eyes as black as the void. It was then that they realized the terrible truth. The clown wasn't the killer after all. It was the boy. The boy who had been possessed by an evil entity, using the clown as a vessel to carry out its twisted desires. The townspeople were stunned, but they knew what they had to do. They took the boy away, sealing him in a room deep beneath the earth. They hoped he would never escape, but they could hear his maniacal laughter echoing through the caverns, a reminder of the horror that had befallen their town. And so, the people of Somerville learned to live with the knowledge that evil can wear many faces, even the most innocent-looking ones. They never forgot the terror of the killer clown, and they made sure that no other entity could ever take control of their town again. Story 2. It was a small town in Maine, the kind of place where everyone knew each other's name and the streets were quiet at night. But that all changed when the circus came to town. The townspeople were excited for the arrival of the big top, eager to see the lions, tigers, and bears. But the star of the show was the clown. He was tall and thin with a painted face and a shock of red hair. The children loved him, and the adults found him charming. But there was something off about the clown. His smile seemed too wide, his laugh too forced. And when the lights went out and the crowds went home, strange things started happening in the town. People began to disappear. At first, it was just one or two, but soon it was happening every night. The townspeople were scared, and they started to suspect the clown was behind it all. They tried to warn the police, but no one believed them. The clown was too popular, too loved. And then one night, the clown showed up at the police station, holding a knife and covered in blood. He confessed to the murders, claiming that he couldn't help himself. He was a monster, he said, and the townspeople had brought it out in him. But as they led him away in handcuffs, the clown's face began to change. The painted smile faded away, revealing a face that was twisted and scarred. After the killer clown's arrest, the town was left in shock. The residents couldn't believe that the friendly clown they had come to love was actually a monster. The police investigation revealed that the clown had been committing murders in various towns and cities for years, always moving on before anyone could catch him. As the trial began, the town was filled with reporters and onlookers from all over the country. The killer clown was dubbed the Laughing Terror by the media, and his gruesome acts were splashed across the front pages of every newspaper. The trial was a media circus, with the defense trying to argue that the clown was insane and not responsible for his actions. But the prosecution presented overwhelming evidence of premeditation and the clown's twisted obsession with his victims. The jury found the clown guilty on all counts, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As he was led away, he looked back at the crowd with a sinister grin, sending shivers down the spines of those who watched. Years passed, and the town tried to move on from the tragedy. But the memories of the killer clown lingered, and many residents still couldn't shake the feeling of dread that came with his name. Then, one day, a group of teenagers decided to explore the abandoned circus grounds where the killer clown had once performed. As they wandered through the decaying tents and rusted equipment, they stumbled upon a small, locked chest. They pried it open, and inside, they found a strange, glowing object that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Suddenly, they heard a low, mocking chuckle coming from the shadows. The teenagers ran, but they didn't get far. They were soon surrounded by twisted, nightmarish versions of the clown, with eyes that glowed like embers and razor-sharp teeth. The laughing terror had returned, and this time, there was no escape. In the end, only one of the teenagers made it out alive, barely escaping the clutches of the killer clown. From that day on, the town was plagued by strange occurrences and unexplained disappearances, as if the clown's malevolent spirit had been unleashed once again. The townspeople knew that they could never forget the horrors of the killer clown, but they also knew that they could never let him win. They banded together, determined to protect their town from the terrors of the past and to prevent the killer clown from ever returning again. Story 3. Beneath the quiet suburban town of Willow Creek, there were tunnels. Long, winding tunnels that snaked their way under the houses and the streets. No one knew why they were there or who built them, but everyone knew to stay away. Everyone, that is, except for the clown. The clown had lived in the tunnels for as long as anyone could remember. He was always there, lurking in the darkness, waiting for his next victim. Children were warned to stay away, but sometimes they would venture too close, and that's when the clown would strike. No one knew where the clown came from or how he ended up living in the tunnels. Some said he was a ghost, others said he was a demon. But one thing was certain, he was deadly. The people of Willow Creek were afraid. They had tried to catch the clown before, but he always managed to slip away into the tunnels. They had tried to block off the entrances, but he always found a way back in. They were at a loss, and the killings continued. But one day, a group of teenagers decided to take matters into their own hands. They armed themselves with flashlights, ropes, and a can of spray paint, and they set out to explore the tunnels. At first, everything seemed normal. The tunnels were dark and eerie, but they didn't see any sign of the clown. And then they saw it. A symbol painted on the wall, a symbol they recognized from their childhoods. It was the clown's symbol. They followed the symbol deeper into the tunnels, and that's when they found him. The clown was there, waiting for them. But he wasn't alone. There were other clowns with him, dozens of them, all living in the tunnels. The teenagers were terrified. They tried to run, but the clowns were too fast. And that's when they realized the twist. The clown wasn't just one entity, it was a group of people. The tunnels had become a hideout for a group of deranged individuals who shared a twisted love for the clown persona. The teenagers were trapped, and as they begged for mercy, the clowns began to tell their story. They explained that they had all been drawn to the tunnels by the clown's symbol, and that they had found solace and companionship in their shared obsession. As they spoke, the teenagers began to realize that the clowns were not monsters, but people who had been forgotten by society. Some had lost their jobs, others had lost their families, but they had all found a home in the tunnels. The teenagers listened to their story, but they knew they had to escape. As they tried to make their way back to the entrance, they realized that the tunnels had shifted. The walls were closing in, and the clowns were closing in on them. In a final act of desperation, the teenagers managed to break through a weakened section of the tunnel and escape into the night. They alerted the police, and the clowns were eventually arrested. The people of Willow Creek were shocked by the revelation that the killer clown was not one entity, but a group of people. They realized that sometimes, the things they feared the most were not monsters, but the hidden parts of themselves. The tunnels were sealed off, and the clowns were taken away to be tried for their crimes. But every now and then, when the wind was just right, the people of Willow Creek could hear the sound of clown laughter echoing through the streets, a reminder of the darkness that lurked just beneath the surface.